And I'm now live on Facebook too. Welcome to Ask Ashley Live. I'm giving this a shot, doing this on both Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. If you are watching on Facebook and would prefer to watch me on YouTube, you can go over to ashley.tube for my live video. Or if you're watching on Instagram, it looks like there is a bad connection. So you might want to join over on ashley.tube where you can see this live also. So this is a live show. You can hop on using the link in the description. If you're watching from Instagram, you might not find the link there. So you can go over to my Facebook page, Ashley Jangro, or YouTube. So you can find the link to join there. I keep repeating myself because it's showing me that I have a poor connection on Instagram, and then I can see people joining, but then it shows poor connection. So again, join me at ashley.tube. All right. So the topic I wanted to cover today, whether or not we have, just checking to make sure. Yep. Okay. Whether or not we have any guests, if you do want to be a guest, you can hop on. But just in case there isn't anybody hopping on, what I wanted to cover today is mom guilt. This is something I get a ton of questions about, how to handle mom guilt. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I used to struggle a huge amount with mom guilt until I learned these 3 things I'm going to share with you today in this video. And just as a quick introduction, I'm Ashley Jangro. Welcome to my channel where I work with moms to build up their own mental strength so that they have what they need to raise mentally strong kids. So I wanted to cover this topic because if you are a mom, you've probably experienced mom guilt at some point. And it's something that can really be detrimental to our relationships with our kids because we feel like we have to give and give and give. And if we're not giving at any given point, then we begin to feel guilty about it. And here's what I want to cover. These 3 strategies that I learned to alleviate that mom guilt, or at least when it comes up, be able to manage it in a way that is not detrimental to myself or my relationship with my child. So the first of those is to work on your own belief systems. I teach so often. We just started the first cohort of mentally strong moms, and I was just teaching on emotions on Monday. And we talk about so often how our emotions come from a thought in our brain. And the other thing I teach often with my one-on-one clients is that our thoughts or our beliefs are simply thoughts that we've practiced over and over. So it's like a sentence in our brain or a story that our brain is telling us that we've repeatedly practiced, and it becomes a belief. It becomes so ingrained in us that it feels like fact. It feels real. And the belief that one of the beliefs that I teach my clients that you need to start working on it, you just need to start practicing telling yourself, is that you are the exact parent your child should have. And I want you to think about that for a second, because I think that when we are starting to feel guilty, we're feeling like, I'm not a good enough parent. I'm not doing the things I should be doing. And I want you to stop and remind your brain, I am the exact parent my child should have. And here's how you know that that's true. You are the exact parent your child should have because you are the parent that your child should have. And anytime you start thinking something like, they should have a better parent, or I should act differently, or I should be doing things differently, you are arguing with reality. And I love this quote from Byron Katie. She always says, when you argue with reality, you will lose, but only every time. And I love that because it just reminds us, like, no matter how hard we argue with reality, we'll lose. So it becomes such a pointless exercise to start thinking, I should be somebody different for my child, or they should have a better parent. So when you're working on that belief, when you're practicing that thought over and over, I am the exact parent my child should have. It's like a stair step to believing that you're the best parent that your child should have, that you are the exact parent that they need and that the universe gave to them. And as you start believing that, it adds to your confidence as you're making decisions with what you do with your time, with how you handle things with your child. And so when that feeling of guilt pops up, you can remind yourself, I'm the exact parent that my child should have. And therefore, that decision was the best I could do in the moment, and it was the correct decision for that moment. Again, because it was the decision, so therefore it was exactly what was supposed to happen. And the second thing, so that's just a belief system that I want you to start working on your own time, practicing that thought. I'm the exact parent my child should have. So the second thing is to, and this I think is the most important thing you can do, is to take the time to process that emotion of guilt. I talk a lot in my program and with my one-on-one clients about how we have the parts of our brain. We have our amygdala, which is our feeling part of our brain, and we have our prefrontal cortex, which is decision making and planning and organizing and all those rational those pieces that we need for rational thinking. And our amygdala is like a barking dog, and our prefrontal cortex is like a wise owl. And whenever that amygdala, whenever that barking dog gets going, our wise owl flies away. It scares it away. This is something that I teach my kids. It's something I learned a while back. And I teach them this is how our brains work. And I teach them always, before you can think rationally about it, before you can have that wisdom that that wise owl provides for you, you have to calm that barking dog down. Because otherwise the owl won't come back into the picture and provide the wisdom for you and the rational thinking and the decision making that you need to think rationally about the situation. So as your dog starts barking, when you feel the guilt, you take the time to calm that dog. You take the time to process your emotion. One of the things that I think we can easily let happen with our mom guilt is kind of let it buzz in the background. And we don't really want to face it. We don't want to take a look at it. It feels scary. It feels like we might discover we did something wrong. And what I'm encouraging you to do is take a look, open that door and look directly at it and say, hello, guilt, here you are. What is it that you're trying to tell me? And I know that this will initially feel uncomfortable because it feels like your brain's going to offer you all these things you did wrong. And what I want to remind you is those thoughts that pop up are simply stories. And there's reasons that our brains give us the stories they do. Typically, it has to do with thoughts we've practiced in the past. And so our brain is trying to handle the new situation the same way. But they're just stories. They're just sentences in your brain. You do not have to take them as truth or believe them. So as you look at your mom guilt, your feeling of guilt, and you face it head on, you have the ability to calm that dog down. And I cannot emphasize enough how powerful and how important this piece is. When you calm that dog down, you can look at those thoughts. You can look at those stories and ask yourself, are those even true? Do I even believe this? And again, the danger is letting it buzz in the background and kind of carrying it with you like a heavy backpack that you're wearing, and it begins to affect you. It begins to affect your relationship with your children. It begins to affect how you show up. So when you take a look at it, you can calm that barking dog down. Then you can begin to think rationally about, okay, what is it that I'm feeling guilty about? Is that even true? Did I do something wrong? And if you did, then you have the opportunity to apologize or to rectify it, but you're looking at it closely and you can handle that from a rational perspective at that point. So the third thing, after you've processed your emotion, after you've practiced this new belief that you are the parent that your child should have, is to just recognize what a pointless emotion guilt is. And there's guilt where it is important that we're apologizing to someone or rectifying the situation, but then there's the shame that follows behind it. And guilt gives us that ability to change something about ourselves and to make the situation right. But when we're taking the time to wallow in it, to sit in it, and to stick with that guilt, it becomes not only a pointless emotion, but a detrimental emotion. And this is something else I teach a lot in the Mentally Strong Mom program. We go through looking at when we have a thought in our mind, like I did something I shouldn't have done, and we feel guilty. And we look at how do we show up when we're believing that thought? Who do we become? How do we act? How does that play out in our lives? And based on all those actions, what result do we end up with in our life? And it's so important to have that awareness. Like, okay, when I'm believing that whatever it is I'm believing that's making me feel guilty, when I'm believing that thought, I'm not showing up as the mom I want to. And I like to, I tell this a lot to my one-on-one clients. I like to think of it this way. If you need something to feel guilty about that will spur you into action, you can feel guilty about how you're showing up when you're feeling guilty. And a lot of times just realizing like this guilt, this like self-punishment that I'm doling out to myself seems like it will make me a better mom. because I will jump into action. And what I'm guilting you into is to believe that no, in fact, it harms your relationship with your child. It makes you show up as somebody that you don't want to show up as, and you act in a way that you wouldn't have otherwise if you weren't feeling guilty. And so when you can get that into your head, like I'm actually doing damage to my child and my relationship with my child when I am wallowing in that mom guilt, then you can be guilted into not feeling guilty anymore. So I like to twist it around that way. We can be motivated to do almost anything for our kids. When we think, okay, I shouldn't feel guilty because whatever reason, it's almost like you're letting yourself off the hook, and that feels too it feels too easy. And a lot of times as moms, we won't do that for ourselves. But if you remember, okay, when I'm spending time in this mom guilt, I'm not being the parent that my child needs in the moment, then you can start to begin to let go of that mom guilt. And a lot of times when you just realize what a pointless emotion it is to stay in, after you've processed it, after you've calmed your nervous system, what a pointless emotion it is to continue to feel, then your brain will begin to let go of it without any effort on your part. It'll just not pop up in the same way in your brain. So those are the three things I want you to practice. Really reworking your belief that you are the exact parent that your child should have. Then second, when that guilt pops up, processing it, calming that barking dog. And then third, realizing, really taking a look at how do I show up? What results end up in my life because of that mom guilt? And realizing as a result that it is such a pointless emotion to have. And those are the three ways that I really began to work on my own mom guilt and was able to just alleviate the heaviness, the weight of mom guilt in my own life so that it did not continue to be a detrimental force in my relationship with my kid. So that is what I have for you today. If there is anybody that wants to come on live and ask any questions, they are welcome to. Otherwise, I invite you to a couple things. Come join me over at Instagram, which I don't think my live ever did work. We'll see at the end. But I don't think my live ever did work. So let's just leave that alone for a minute. But I invite you to join me at Instagram at Ashley B. Jangro, or the other place I invite you to come join me is in the Mom Squad. This is my free online community where we talk about all these topics, where we talk about strategies that we can learn to pass on to our kids. Oh, hi, Elizabeth. Welcome. But the Mom Squad is where we spend time learning strategies that we can pass on to our kids so that we are raising mentally strong kids. So I invite you to come join me in the Mom Squad. You can get to that by going to momsquad.ashley.tube. Also on Instagram at Ashley B. Jangro. So, Elizabeth, I think you're jumping in right at the tail end of this, but I would love for you to go back and watch it. I just taught about mom guilt and how the three strategies I have used to alleviate mom guilt in my own life, which is something that we're going to discuss in our Q&A today for Mentally Strong Moms, which is at 1:00. So if you are interested at all in Mentally Strong Moms, that is my signature program where we really focus in on helping moms to build the strength, learn the strategies, and get the support they need so that they can, as I've said over and over, raise mentally strong kids. It's a really amazing, powerful community. And so I open up cohorts of that throughout the year. So if you're interested in that, then jump in the Mom Squad, my free online community. And I always announce when I'm opening a new cohort. I hope to see you there. Otherwise, I will be back here next week, same time, same place, 10:00 Mountain Standard Time every Wednesday. Oh, I'm so glad that we figured out the time zone. So you can always come back and watch the replays of this and in Mentally Strong Moms. So I'll see you next week. If you are part of Mentally Strong Moms, I will see you today at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time.